they're off. Welcome to Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management by Dynasty Financial Partners and hosted by CEO Shirl Penney.
Welcome to Season 5 of Around the Track. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management. I'm your host, Shirl Penney, founder and CEO of Dynasty Financial Partners, and I'm incredibly excited about this episode of Around the Track because I get to tape this episode in the winner's circle, the Dynasty winner's circle at the famous Del Mar racetrack. And I'm joined by my colleague, Marc Hineman, who is Dynasty's new Chief Operating Officer. So Marc, welcome to Dynasty, and thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with me on Around the Track.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Okay, we talked about this in advance. There's only one rule on Around the Track. We're going to try to, within 15 minutes, make our way around the virtual track that's being depicted here behind us. And we're going to go ahead and get started with what I hope is an easy one to break you out of the gate strong. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your family, your career.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm originally from New York. I've been married to my wife for 24 years. I have two children, a bit older, 17 and 20. My career has been based in financial services. I've spent over 20 years in the big banks. But my career, when I look at it, it's really been four main phases. So starting out originally in the retail wealth side with JP Morgan Chase in New York. From there, I moved on to the buy side with Evergreen Asset Management. And then from there, moved over to the sell side with Wells Fargo Securities. So kind of covered the spectrum, if you will, of the capital markets ecosystem. The last 8 years I've spent at a small fintech company called PICO, building that company out. We grew it 5x and took the company global from there.
Awesome. We'll talk more about that growth here in a little bit. You know, one of the things I was really impressed about in the process where we're getting to know each other is you were incredibly thorough in terms of your due diligence. So why were you so excited to join us at Dynasty?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I did do a lot of research on both you as well as the company. Really, it was not only your vision of the company, but what you've done in the time that you've had the company. So again, my experience at PICO, growing that company 5x over 8 years, we went through a lot of trials and tribulations. As I like to say, we did everything wrong. We've experienced all the mistakes that people will probably make. You were a step ahead of that. You had a fantastic board. You had a very solid base of clients. You call them partners, which I thought was really important. And when you look at the platform you're building, really it's central to the ecosystem. Again, very similar to what we did at PICO in the capital markets, but Dynasty here for the independent space, that really spoke to me. And I think that's the greatest opportunity.
You know, you talked there again about the 5x growth that you experienced at PICO, and oftentimes at Dynasty we talk about having to build the plane while we're flying it, and we're also experiencing incredible rapid growth within the firm. And there's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs who are going to be watching this conversation that are also running rapidly growing businesses. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned being inside of an organization that was growing so fast, and how do you look to apply that learning here at Dynasty to help us scale and grow to the next level as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think number one, I didn't found the company I was at last, but I consider myself an entrepreneur. So over the course of the 8 years, we built out the business. We transformed the business. So we built it while we were flying it, per se. That takes a steady hand, number one. So I think it's incredibly important to have a partner that is able to keep their hand on the wheel through that process. That's what we here at Dynasty do. That's what I hope to be able to bring to the advisors who join us. And really, we're an extension of their team. So very similar to what I did at PICO. I'm on the same side. Their success is our success. So I feel like I've been there, done that. So I know what they're feeling and what they're going through.
Got it. You know, one of the things that I hear a lot when I ask our audience for questions that they want to hear me ask guests on the show is to talk about pivotal moments in one's career. So I'm going to ask you that question. Is there one that you can think of that was really instrumental, perhaps, in shaping who you are as an operator or a leader? What did you learn about yourself in that moment?
Yeah, two real pivotal moments. One in my professional career was very early on when I was working on a trade desk. At that time, I was dating my girlfriend, who is now my wife. So some success there and follow through. But unfortunately, I caused an error that was 3x my salary. At that point, being very young, I went home to my wife, our girlfriend again at the time, told her, I think I lost my job today. Long story short, got called in, a little bit of slap on the wrist, and they supported me through the whole process. That really spoke to me. Number one, that they just invested that amount into me, into the success of my career. So that shaped me in terms of how I think about people,
Right.
and how I think about leaders. So it's not just the job, you're shaping lives. So that really spoke to me early on in my career. The second, which was a little bit later in the career, my father, who's a lifelong IBMer, retired for the first time, and he had been there for over 30 years, and he became an entrepreneur after that.
Yeah.
That gave me a little bit of the courage to step out of the banks years ago, and really scratch that itch myself.
I really appreciate those comments in terms of pivotal moments. I'll also just say, having met your wife, that you're not just a great operator, but you're obviously pretty good in sales too as well. So
Thank you for that.
yeah, so we're headed towards the far turn, not quite headed for home yet. So uh, one of the things that I really enjoy about continuing to enhance and upgrade our leadership team as we grow to meet the life cycle of where we are as a business at Dynasty is bringing so many fresh and new perspectives into the business. And again, you've only been here a little bit now, but I think probably long enough to have at least an initial impression. Where do you see some opportunities that you're excited to help us lead towards at Dynasty over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think two main areas that come to mind, again, that you've already built the foundation for, but I see so much more. Number one is desktop space of the advisors, is pushing the workstation, and that's not only access to data through our resource partners, our custodians, performance reporting, et cetera, but it's content. So it's content from our partners, it's Dynasty content, and that also is curated content that our advisors can push to their end clients. Because again, that's why we're here, right? We're helping those end clients build wealth. So the workstation and desktop space, I think, is a huge opportunity for us. Number two is just data at large, data aggregation, data curation, data visualization. The ability to drive decisions off of that data is tremendous. I mean, again, if you think about the over $100 billion that we have on the platform today going to 500 billion, going to 1 trillion, and the amount of data that's going to correspondingly follow along with that, and really what we can drive off that, the opportunities are not limitless, but they're
Yeah,
close to
yeah.
it.
No, very, very excited to partner with you on how we better utilize data for the benefit of our clients. You talked about a little bit about your experience at PICO, and being there, obviously you had purview working with some of the largest banks and brokerage firms in the industry in the world, and now obviously coming in and bringing your expertise into the RIA space. So it's a pretty broad perspective on the industry. So through that lens, I'd like to get your view on, if you look out, again, you picked a time frame, the next 3 to 5 years, again, I guess for this question, what are you most concerned about right now within our industry?
Yeah, I think the number one, it's a fast moving industry. It's a
Yeah.
hot area of the space, which is no secret. Everybody sees it today. And I think those macro trends will continue. So there's a lot of capital coming in that's reshaping the industry. But I think
Yeah,
we've talked about it before,
for
right?
sure.
Right? Who is the capital working for? That's the optimal question here that we need to think about. Number one, and that's going to shape the players in the space on the RIAs, as well as the tech that ultimately supports that. So I think that's a big one as well. And then complacency at large in terms of, are folks moving or are they not moving? When I think about some of the other macro trends from the overall industry, it's the number of advisors, right? We talk
Yeah,
about
for
the number
sure.
of advisors being down, 50% over the last few years. And if we look out 3 to 5 years, is that number going to continue to decelerate at that rate? I think that changes the dynamic of what we offer and how we support our partners.
Yeah, I think depending on which side you're on, that's the challenge and the opportunity you have at a moment in time where wealth creation continues to increase at a significant pace. You have fewer and fewer advisors being able to service them, which really, I think, requires that technology step into the void to allow high quality advisors to service more clients in the future. In a way that is similar to the way that they service them today. And maybe that's a good pivot, to our next question. which is more specific to technology in the future and what you're excited about. I certainly get excited when we start to have brainstorming conversations on what we can do with technology. And sometimes you have to, as you've reminded me, pull myself back and remain laser focused on the things that we need to get done incrementally. But if you look out in terms of, given all your experience within wealth tech, what are some opportunities for significant enhancement and change, for our business and the independent space by better utilizing technology to take better care of our clients and build better businesses?
Yeah, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think it's access to data and delivering that data in a way that's usable, not just to the advisor, but to the end client. We talk a lot about delivering data on our handhelds, right? And
Right.
that's access. You can access your own brokerage account, so why can't we deliver that on a day-to-day basis? I think that's the biggest opportunity that I see in order to further that.
Yeah, great. All right, Mark, we've made it to our last question. We're getting ready to cross the finish line. I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked, the previous 55 or so guests around the track, so it's not going to surprise you. And that is, what is your big triple crown? And what I mean by that is, what is that big, seemingly unattainable goal that's sitting out there? Just like, within, this industry, within racing, the trainers, the jockeys, the owners are hoping to one day, win at least one of the races, let alone all of them in a triple crown. So what is that goal that has you kind of flying out of bed in the morning that you're still running hard towards and you're super excited to be able to one day hopefully achieve?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's number one, it's finishing some unfinished business that I had from my previous role. And that's completing, if you will, the growth cycle of a company. So we've talked about the growth of assets in the next 36 months to 300 billion. My goal would be 5x, so that's 500 billion. And then the opportunity, if the markets are in the right stage, and if we make a decision to potentially have a public exit, right, from a company perspective. Those are the triple crowns. And again, that's a decision that we'll all make together, and if it's right for the business. But for me, I think that's something that continues to get me up every day to do the best and strive for my best for the clients as well.
Awesome. We're aligned on that. Mark, thanks so much for sitting down and having this conversation. And thank you again to all of you for tuning in to another edition of Around the Track.